All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there and a part of the Men in Blazers media network. And look, it's Ollie, it's Nick, it's Dan, and we are going to be talking about, as Ollie put it, absolutely delectable, a sumptuous night out at Stamford Bridge in West London as Chelsea's women's team continues to assert dominance over the Women's Super League. Another phenomenal win for the flying start to Sonia Bompastor's era as the Chelsea women's team manager. I don't know how you could be on your seat. I mean, if you're paying for the whole seat, you only need the edge, as they say often, Nick, when you're watching this team and just how they continue to impress every single match. It doesn't seem like there's a team on planet Earth right now, maybe outside of the Monstars, that could even take to toe this team right now.
Well, to use your Space Jam analogy then, Dan, whatever secret stuff is out there, we have it. And, you know, I think this team, it was a hard game yesterday. You know, City have had our number for the last, couple of seasons. You know, they're a very good team in their own right, but it did feel like a shift in the power dynamics a little bit. And, I think for a game like this, Ollie, it's like you desperately want safe standing at the bridge, because I don't know how you guys sat for this. I was like pacing around behind my couch. Like I didn't have a chance to sit down.
Yeah, I mean, in the first half, it was kind of sedate, both teams feeling themselves out, but in the second half, there was a lot of standing. Like the bridge was bouncing by full time, like especially in that, that brilliant period we had with both goals. Like it felt like a pretty special night, and then another step towards kind of making the bridge our home,
And that's, I think, an important part of it too. And Ollie, I mean, I think for those who are not aware, I mean, but don't pay enough attention. Like the Chelsea women's team does not play the majority of their games at Stamford Bridge. So I think a good thing, a reminder, if you're coming to this lately or you're more the tertiary supporter of just all things Chelsea, I mean, this is more of a rare opportunity for the women's team, during these international breaks or other times of the year and the season where they get an opportunity to play at Stamford Bridge. Can you talk to us maybe just a little bit before you get into the whole pod talking about Bompastor, the player performances, how they actually got the job done, just the difference in atmosphere when the women's team plays at Stamford Bridge versus at Kings Meadow?
Yeah, it just feels more prime time, like we absolutely love Kings Meadow. It's been our home, it's been our fortress, it's been our bastion. It's kind of carried us over the line a lot of times, just, being with the fans so close to the pitch and, having that as our home. With a bridge, it's slightly different, right? Obviously, you've got a larger pitch, you've got bigger stands, and often those stands are sometimes empty, right? Outside of primetime moments. So you think of like Lyon at home in the Champions League, right? When we basically almost sold out. But you'll see against Celtic midweek, right? There's going to be not as many people as last night. So it's crucial we have these moments where I think it was over 20K yesterday. A really good noise, especially when we were kind of building into the game. And that's all part of making those moments matter, making it a kind of bastion that we can kick on from and feel really comfortable in. And you can see the players game on game, they feel more comfortable playing in these atmospheres. They feel more comfortable, playing on this pitch and it being their home, right? And I think when we're talking about how amazing this team is throughout this pod, the context really matters, because we're going to go away to these big grounds like, Camp Nou or wherever, and you want to feel comfortable playing in these environments. And these are all these steps that really matter, and the growth of the game especially. And yeah, I think since we've changed a few things on the women's side to kind of promote the game a bit better, we're seeing those steps being taken. And yeah, I think yesterday is another kind of rung on that ladder, building that game, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point about like just the atmospheres, getting the atmospheres into your system a little bit, playing these bigger. I mean, look, the size difference between Stamford Bridge and Kings Meadow is inescapable. Like, it is just a bigger venue. The lights are a little bit brighter, right? You know, the pitch is a slightly different size. You know, and you're going to play. You know, I think we all anticipate on this show that you're going to play deep into the year in these big environments, and so the more of these that you play and you win, super important. The more confidence and the less nervy I think you get in some of those moments as the year wears on. So I couldn't agree with that point more.
For sure.
And it just reinforces the fact that this, Chelsea side too is littered with individuals who play not only with Chelsea in the big stages, but also at the international stage as well, on the big stages too. So none of them necessarily afraid of the bright lights. Nick, we did get a couple 3-word match reviews, though. People summing up what they thought about this match. Why don't you run through a couple of the lister ones and we'll share ours too.
Yeah, some favorites in here for sure. Clip show with Myra Didier Ramirez. Big goals at the bridge. Feels familiar. That's nice. Megan with really, really stretching the parameters.
Or shortening?
Or, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Condensing?
We are top of the league. We are top of the league in the Sam Kerr voice. More on that player coming soon, which is going to be tremendous. And then Uni 96 with Ramon Lee up there. And this is kind of setting the tone, I think, for my 3-word match review, which is a champion's performance. You know, not easy, but enough quality to get over the line. And I'm very pleased that we took this opportunity to cement ourselves exactly where we feel we should be.
Look, I definitely could have gone with the why not us, or it's obviously us, if I wanted to maybe sow a little bit more controversy at the beginning of an episode.
Feels like you just did, Dan. It feels like you just did.
Instead, I went with setting the pace, because we have seen over the past 5-6 years, it is a very fine line in terms of the number of points required to win the Women's Super League. And being up points with a game in hand, I mean, that is a most advantageous position for this Chelsea team. And so, look, you have to follow the league leaders, as it were. And we are not the individuals looking ahead and trying to see who we're catching up to. Everybody else is looking at our back, Ollie.
Yeah, 100%. And, it might only be a point, but right now we look very, very scary. Like, it's scary, but not for us. Like
call an ambulance, but not for me. Is that right?
But not for me, exactly. Like, heading into that game last night, there were lots of discussions about, obviously, we'll come to missing Keisha and maybe Lucy Bronze starting, and that kind of how the midfield will fit together, especially against like one of the best teams in women's football. Like, I can't stress this enough. Man City are a very good side. Like, outside of maybe
they
Barcelona.
beat Barcelona. They seriously beat Barcelona. They're not. Yeah. I mean, these guys are not to be played with. They're very good.
100%. And like, you're heading into it thinking, okay, we've not had a good run of things. It's been like 3 games against these guys where they've had our number, really. Like, we've just not really landed a punch. And to see the step up from the first half to the second half with a little tiny tweak from Sonia, just like chef's kiss, like incredible to watch, and just so dominant in that 45 minutes as well. Like, yeah, I can't wait to get into that. But to me, the only way to start is the perfect 10. Like, sorry, that's absurd. it's absurd. Breaking, we'll get onto this later, but breaking the record for the best ever start in the WSL as a manager, like, come on. Like, you can't do better than this. And then winning every game as well, like winning every game in the Women's Champions League, like 10 out of 10. You can't do better than that, Dan.
Well, we're going to get into all the match details here in just a moment. But before that, we just always like to get the admin out of the way at the top. And first, it's always a thanks to everybody who helps listen and support the podcast. You can do so by leaving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always appreciate it. You can subscribe on YouTube as well, where you get to see Nick's fine mustache in just absolutely mid-season form. Per
beard back. Okay,
beard's coming back. It's
mustache
dominant. Look, it's
Yeah.
mustache dominant at the moment. We got to keep that in mind. Look, you can hit the bell icon to get notified as well. Like and comment on the videos too. Is it mustache dominant? Let us know. You can also subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, the London is Blue Dispatch, and you can also join in our Discord community in a free or paid variety. But look, it was Man City this past Saturday, the 16th of November, in the Chelsea's Super League. It's ours at this point. You know, you win it back-to-back so consecutively. This is not the Women's Super League anymore. It's ours. At Stamford Bridge, 2-0. It was Ramirez in the 75th and Wrighton in the 79th that got it done. But Nick, why not run us through the lineup to remind people of all the wonderful contributors that this team had to get the job done?
Yeah, it was slightly different lineup than I predicted, but Hannah Hampton in between the sticks, obviously Lucy Bronze, Natalie Bjorn on the right, Millie Bright on the left, center back pairing, and then Sandy Baltimore as our kind of pseudo left back, left wing back. Erin Cuthbert, Shukanoskin in midfield, Guro Wrighton, Micah Hamano, Joanna Ritten-Cannerid, and Myra Ramirez up top, with only 2 subs in this one, of Ashley Lawrence coming in for Guro in the 83rd minute and Aggie Beaver-Jones coming in for Myra in the 90th minute. Unused subs, Musovic, Bernabe, Paraset, Impam, Orion Jean-Francois, Vika Kapton, and Kat Macario.
All important things to consider there. Just see if you look at some of the top line stats, 37% possession to the 63% that Man City had there. No big chances on the night to the one that they created. We did have 15 total shots. Their 8. Their goalkeeper was a little bit more active on the night. 4 saves to 2 for ours. 6 corner kicks to their 4. 9 fouls for us to their 5. 1 yellow card apiece, though. So the opposite of what happens to us in the Premier League.
Nailed it.
Yeah, just fantastic. And then the one random stat that we got to throw out there, I mean, it is the historic stat for Sonia Bompastor. And I'm also caveating this is they like how ridiculously spoiled Chelsea supporters are. I mean, it is a first manager in to win 7 opening matches in WSL history. There's also, as you mentioned, the perfect 10 matches across all competitions. I mean, I don't think we can say any more other than what Sonia Bompastor said, which was just every record has to be broken when they prompted her about it in the post-match interview. Flawless. No notes.
Unreal, Dan. Like, come on. Like, that is the response you want. She's like, what's next? Bring it.
That's a stone cold killer response right there. There was no emotion in that response whatsoever. It's like, I don't know. This is what we do.
It was a half laugh. She gave you the half laugh and was like, okay, we're moving on to the next thing. Again, all business-like from Sonia Bompastor in that moment. Nick, though, you did have a shithouse moment of the match that you wanted to throw in here, which I think is not surprising.
No, it's not, Dan. This is a physical game, and the physical nature of the moment meant that, of course, Myra was not refereed properly for the 80th straight time. We've had 0 games since a Myra getting fouled and not getting a call incident. So Myra decided, fuck it, I'm going to take it into my own hands, and I'm going to bully the absolute hell out of Alana Kennedy, and then go and back Greenwood all the way up into her own goal and create the winner myself. And it was a very I'll do this myself sort of moment, and I was really, really pleased to see it, because I don't know about you, Ollie. I think that she has toned down some of her physical play a little bit because she's not getting calls, or she's being seen as the aggressor. And I think this was like a flip the switch moment to be like, I got to be who I am.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you think back to Millie Turner against United at the end of last year. Like, Turner tried to do exactly the same thing that Alana Kennedy absolutely did not want any part of today, by the way. She turned and it was like, oh, like objects in your rearview mirror may appear closer than they actually are. Like, but like that moment just made the goal, right? Because Micah's ball was slightly under hit. Myra gets there. She, absolutely bullies Alana Kennedy. And it made Alex Greenwood retreat. Like, she was coming to the ball, and then she was absolutely not coming to the ball. So yeah, she didn't want to be posterized. So yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And to your point, Nick, like, you only need to look at the difference in terms of commentary for the WSL official feed, where I think it's Jonathan Pierce said, great strength from Myra Ramirez. And, she keeps going, and then Alex Greenwood's backing away, and she's, you know, backed away too far, right? On the Sky feed in this country, we're having, it's like, oh, well, City will probably think that's a foul. And it's like, no, like, what are we doing here? Like, Alana Kennedy just simply wasn't, she didn't have the minerals, Nick. Like, it wasn't there. And we had a whole group of Aussie Chelsea fans down the row with us. And they took one look at Alana Kennedy on the floor and just went, tough look. Like, what are you going to do, you know?
No. That was a physical mismatch. Physical mismatch.
It's not often you back up so much you're almost in the stands. So definitely worth being in consideration for the shithouse moment of the match by far. We're going to take a first ad break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the matchup heard around the world, and Chelsea absolutely, again, showing up on the big stage. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. Okay, Nick, cagey affair. No holds barred. It was a matchup between the heavyweights in England, the heavyweights in the WSL, and on the day, it was no coming down to decision. You got the knockout blow with a 2-0 victory versus the visitors. So great result, great day. I mean, let's just start heaping some more praise on this team in the moment.
Well, I do want to start with the game. I think like just the play that happened, because, you know, I don't think a team made a mistake that led to either one of our goals. I think it was a very, very good game. Physical, cagey, strategic, whatever you want to call it. You know, I think City had the better run in the first half, frankly. I thought that we had a better run in the second half. You know, this wasn't a fake boxing fight that you might have seen the results of on Friday. This was a real, you're landing haymaker sort of vibe. And I think this is where I want to start with this one, because we know the way that Bompastor wants to play. And I think this interview from October really kind of shed some light as to how she is adjusting to these moments where in France, Lyon is the dominant team. That it's rare that they come up with a team, you know, maybe PSG occasionally, that has the ability to make them uncomfortable. Obviously, the WSL is a much different league, a much more physical league, and it's a league with more parity. Like, there's a lot of good players around this league. She said, I'm already starting to adjust my game model. It's frustrating because I like to be dominant, but sometimes you have to accept that other teams are doing a good job. When I was in France, we dominated so much. Here, teams have really good buildup. Even if you want to press, they can break through. So I need to adjust, because at the end of the day, my management has to help the players. I think a manager needs to adapt and make sure we get 3 points every single game. And Ollie, this is the moment. This is the moment for me to go. You've seen that like sharpshooter where he goes, I understand it now. And then he makes like 5 in a row. This was it for me, because City tried to bait us into the press game and to make critical errors. And we simply did not fall for it. And I am so proud of the team for that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as you're saying, like both teams kind of feeling themselves out first half. And you can see, as you say, City was setting that bait, but we weren't there. And equally, we had our bait of our own. the same way of Micah being like, "Oh, I'm not here. Please give it to Hasegawa." You know, I'm definitely not here. Like, don't mind me.
Got you again. I wasn't here the whole time.
But like, yeah, just as you say, it's like almost like an analysis complete moment at halftime where Sonia's like, "Oh, we just need to do these 2 things, and we're good." Like, we can almost simulate the rest of the match from here, because I know these these people can just take us over the line and deliver for me in a way where I deeply trust them. And I think it was so informative at the end of the game when Sonia's high-fiving all the coaches. They get exponentially harder. So like by the time she gets the fitness coach at the end, it's like taking his arm out. Fitness coach is making a fist. Like, she was very, very happy with how that second half went, and obviously rightly so. But yeah, it comes back to the tactics and what she's learning week in, week out. And, you know, we say, oh, she's not really very used to the league. You know, she's having to adapt. She's won her first 7 games, Nick. Like, where does she go from here? Like, step up.
Just in case you're counting at home, that's 21 out of a possible 21 points. So
Seems good, Math Nick. Seems good.
Yeah, no, look, Math Nick's been showing up a lot recently, and I hate it just as much as you are. But like, to me, I think this game in the second half, in particular, Ollie, I would argue the first half, our midfield was difficult for them to make their way through, and that was, I think just part and parcel with City's midfield being very, very good on the day. Talk about what I think the strategic change was in the second half in the midfield and how Chelsea started to assert the dominance. Because I would argue that 63% possession for City looks good on paper, but it didn't feel that way watching it in the second half. It felt much more even.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the kind of heat map, right, it's going to be very central because they're trying to funnel the ball through Hasegawa. They're not really able to use Fujino and Mary Fowler because of Lucy Bronze and because of Sonny Baltimore, who we'll come on to. But yeah, I think just the change was just a little tweak in intensity, a little move higher from the whole of midfield. And it just meant that Erin can play a natural game, Shurka can play a natural game, and Micah can be this like ferocious pressing 10 that, like we were talking after the game, Hasegawa, obviously she knows her very well from the national team and coming through in terms of the national team setup, right? But like every time she knew which way she was going, and Hasegawa is a very, very good player. She was arguably like the dominant midfield presence in the league last season, right? So just to have someone who is like, oh, you're going that way, I'm already here, like you're going to try and beat me again. And every single time she was being pressed back, like that must have been deeply frustrating for Taylor on the touchline, but also Hasegawa, who is the central pivot for City. Like if she isn't in the game, they really, really struggle. And then they over rely on people like Bunny and people like Mary Fowler. And Dan, like that is where you want them to be, right? We've got them where they want them to be.
Yeah, I think when you look at the fact, and I know Nick talked about this idea that the second half, it felt like we were more in control. The data would tell you that actually the ball possession was pretty flat between both halves. Where you saw it, though, was with the intent and the action and the willingness to go at goal. 60% of the shots that Chelsea took out of the 15, so 9 out of 15, happened in the second half. And so I think to your point, Nick, I mean, really it comes down, it's again those two moments with that really sealed the deal for Chelsea, and just the movement, the action, and kind of the direct play that Chelsea really made it difficult for City, because when they were committing so much to trying to press, trying to kind of make life difficult for Chelsea, they did leave themselves exposed in some very terrible one-on-one situations in their half that did not necessarily play out well for them.
No, I mean, in games like this that are really, a coin flip, right? This was a coin flip game for most of it. It takes moments of individual brilliance to break through. And that's exactly what we saw for Myra Ramirez's stunning goal. And it's what we saw from Guro doing Guro things. I mean, that's a peach of a goal from Guro. I mean, I saw her hit it and I was like, oh, that's in. Like and it was just beautiful. I mean, but you need those moments of brilliance. I would argue Bunny Shaw was the best player in the first half by a pretty significant margin. I thought she was excellent, and we had a lot of trouble dealing with her. In the second half, our players stepped up and showed their individual quality. And this, to me, Ollie, is the moment where you kind of look at someone like Guro, who, I think entering the season, we're like, I don't know, is she still the same player? And then you see what Harry Edwards has put as a stat pack here, and you're like, yep, she is that player. It's incredible.
Yeah, sensational. Like we were saying, you just wouldn't want anyone else in that position. Like inside right, moves it onto her left foot, and it's just unerring, man. Like it's like she uses the defender as a kind of obstacle for the keeper, and just like buries it bottom left, and you're like, yep. that's Guro. And it was almost surprising, like a few minutes earlier when Micah had bustled into the box off Guro's touch, laid it back to her in space. She plays it through, I think it's Alana Kennedy's legs, and just wide. She was devastated with that. Like it was a proper full-on Guro reaction. Like really like overly dramatic throwing herself to the ground, because she knows in these games those are the chances she wants. And yeah, exactly. It's like it's just microseconds that you want her involved in those moments. But shout out also to Lucy Bronze on that move, because the pick out, just to have the calmness in amongst the complete chaos which was that set piece. Like Erin throwing herself at the ball, like the ball just bobbling everywhere. Lucy says my ball, and then plays a perfect reverse pass to Guro in space, which is the pass you make. And yeah, the rest is what you expect.
Dan, we have Guro stat pack for versus the Big Four for Chelsea Football Club across all competitions. Against Arsenal, small team in North London that you may have heard of. 4 goals, 3 assists, just your classic, performance there. Against City, she is the player for us. 4 goals, 5 assists. Against United, 1 goal, 5 assists. Feels like she could have 10 goals against United, to be honest, but hasn't so far. I mean, she is right now, despite all of the talent that we have in an attacking move and some yet to come back, which we will be very happy to see. She is the player who is most consistently stepping up in big moments. And, I think there was a moment last year where I was like, oh man, is she on the way down? Right. Is she reaching that kind of pinnacle and is kind of on the downside of her career? And it's like, no, she's back and better now, which is insane.
Yeah, the Guro gang is strong at the moment. Absolutely, just throwing it up, and just it feels like anytime she touches the ball, like something magical might happen, which is, I think, very different from what you're talking about the tail end of last season. Maybe having a few more question marks about where her journey was. Seems a little bit rekindled and revitalized under Sonia Bompastor, and I think that kind of speaks to Ollie, the difference between how Sonia managed versus maybe how we've kind of gone at this City team, maybe a little bit more evenly under the Emma Hayes era, where it was a little bit more of a kind of 50-50 type of duel situation. This felt a little bit more, I think people have questioned the tactical setup of Sonia Bompastor to Emma Hayes, and they're both fantastic managers. And so I think, again, we are spoiled by the fact that we get to talk about former manager Emma Hayes and current manager Sonia Bompastor and compare and contrast the differences. But it did feel like there was a markedly different approach to how Sonia wanted to take this game to them.
Yeah, and to your point, it feels just like we platform individuals in a more kind of surefire way. It's almost like the game plan isn't necessarily just to stop Man City. It's also to make sure that when we have those moments, those breakaway chances, they're less kind of coin flip, as Nick was saying, or roll the dice, really. And it's not like who has more breakthrough moments, Myra or Bunny. It's more like how many breakthrough moments can we make in those, those situations. And, to go back to Guro, you empower a player like that, and she gives you 7 in her last 10 games, or, top scorer in the WSL. And we have so many kind of jack of all trades up front. We have lots of them that can play so many different positions and have so much kind of creativity in those different roles that allows you to chop and change in these big games to suit those situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like in games previously against City, we've over-relied on those kind of individual moments just to carry us through. And you can't do that against the very best teams, or you can't do it like 50% of the time, right? And often 50% manifests itself as 3 non-wins in the last 3, right? So yeah, just being in a place where we can more consistently empower these players and get them in those better positions. Like I said, we had 1 big chance, but I mean, we didn't have any big chances in the stat pack, right? But to me, like, we created moments that with 1 like little better ball, 1 flick round the corner would have been a big chance. So the threat was always there. It was always looming with us. And I don't think you can say that in the last few seasons against City. It's almost felt quite blunted. So to see the way Sonia set up, I would say it was respectful. But then the kind of second half, just flipping that switch, going, okay, they managed that bit. If we just, dial the intensity up just slightly in midfield, we go really ultra aggressive with our fullbacks. Can they handle that? And the answer, Nick, was no.
Yeah, I think the one strategic call out from first to second half is like first half City basically shut down all of our midfield passing lanes, and it was really, really difficult for Cuthbert and Nuskin to get involved in any sort of build-up play. And so by the result of that, you saw Natalie Bjorn pushing into midfield to kind of make up the numbers, right, and play some really good balls down the right to JRK, who did not have her best game. Be honest about that, but that was the way that we were finding a way through. And the second half, it was completely different, and it was Aaron and Shukas stepping up and going, "We're going to be bastard-coated bastards in this midfield. We're going to win every single ball back. We are going to take on some really difficult challenges. We don't care if we get carded; it doesn't really matter. But it does matter if we upset what they are doing." And it changed the game. It completely changed the game. That with Micah dropping back a little bit deeper and helping to recover, like all of these things really matter. It really is chess, not checkers, when you're playing a team as good as City. And now we see the results of that chess, that we have a grandmaster.
Well, we'll talk about the next move, Micah, and other things in just a moment. We're going to get our last ad break out of the way, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Look, we've talked a lot about Micah in this match and just the strong start that she's had this season for Chelsea. I mean, how much praise you want to heap on it? I think, Nick, you summed it up in our group chat yesterday and in the script here. Complete performance. And I think that is a great jumping off point to talk about just how good this display was by Chelsea's young midfield player.
It was our best performance of the season yesterday from any individual player, and that is counting, hat tricks and all sorts of great goals. And, I think Cannerid's been incredible for us this season. There is nothing more important to me when I watch football than a player who helps the team win, right? And that doesn't always have to be through goals and assists, although she, was a little bit fortunate to get an assist in this game because Myra decided to, go full on. But I think the play, the positioning, the pressing, the recoveries, making sure there was an outlet to advance the ball through midfield, the absolute shutting down of Hasegawa. These are the critical things that I kept watching her Ollie in this game and going, she has not made a mistake yet. She hasn't made a mistake. She knows exactly where to be. She was pointing at Ramirez to press when it was time to press. And, she may seem like this quiet, really reserved character because you see a lot of her on social media, and I think she's become a fan favorite because of that sort of vibe. But she was a lion out there today. And there's nothing more important to me than a selfless player and team. You have to have them. Otherwise you can't win. You can't have a team of individuals who just want to be individuals. She is a team player. And Yash has a pass map of all the things that really matter in this game. All you have to do is watch this with your eyeballs and go, holy shit, this player is developing in front of our eyes, and she's going to be remarkable.
Yeah. Like that, there were parts of the game yesterday where I'm like, she's 20 years old, Nick. Like, you compare and contrast with Fujino, who's also 20 years old, also in the Japanese national team, and just kind of got blunted out of the game. Like, we didn't really see her. And Micah came up so big. Like, she was everywhere. Like, we're talking about a potential player in the match, which we'll get to. But yeah, just the way she completely shut down Hasegawa. Just thinking back to when she signed, Nick, and how excited we were in terms of the talent she has. But that was all about her as a forward, right? We're talking about a player who got the golden ball in the under-17 World Cup, and all the Brazil players loved her, so they called her Micahzinha, which means little Micah. Today she was Micah Zol. She was big Micah,
Big.
Yeah, like yes. Today she was everywhere. Like, it's hard to kind of overstate how great a performance that was to shut down a player like Hasegawa, who has been a dominant force in the WSL in recent history. But yeah, she knows her so well, and it's the timing of those challenges. She didn't ever, commit herself in a way that left us, undermanned. She slid in, she won the ball, she nicked it off them, she kept making herself a menace, and the work rate was absurd, Nick. Like, we're talking about in at the end of the first half, where I think what summed up the game for me perfectly for her was there was just a long, hopeful ball, and it was to Yo-Yo or Myra, and it was completely overhit, and it was going for the corner flag. And we're sitting in the Matthew Harding lower going, oh my God, like, what was that? And Micah, yeah, she gets there from like the left half space. She like busts the gut 50 yards to make it to the corner flag. She gets there first. She beats her marker. She lays it back. And we have an attack. And like stuff like that, the selfless running, the selfless off the ball movement is almost more important than the kind of assist for the goal, because we know she has that in her locker. I'm so excited to see the player she can become. And, when she first signed, I was saying that she could be better than G for this football club. And I do not say that lightly, because Gigi was a legend at this football club and still is, right? I'm talking about the top level of attacker or 10 you can talk about. But Gigi, as much as he could press, didn't press like this. Like, this is a whole level above that. And when you have a goal scoring 10, an assisting 10, and a 10 now who's proven she can shut down one of the world's best in midfield, like, you're talking about a serious player, Nick.
This is a player for now big occasions. This is a player for City. This is a player for Arsenal. This is a player for Barcelona, when inevitably we meet them in the semifinal, which is, write it down on the board. It's happening. The draw will be super fair. Don't you worry about it. But I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. I would go look at Yash's pass map of her pass pilots, of the territory that she covered, of the defensive actions. I think, to go back to your point, Ollie, this is not the same thing as when Ander Herrera basically was Velcroed to Eden Hazard in the league. This is not that performance. That was not what she did. She was so super strategic in like being far enough away for Hasegawa to forget that she existed, and then being right in her face when it counted. Like, this is the discipline it takes to do this is remarkable. And if you care about other players' opinions, Sam Kerr said kid's a star. That is Sam Kerr, scorer of goals, wrecker of worlds. Like, that is this is a player now who, if I am number 10 competition, Macario, Lauren James, etc., this is not what I had accounted for in my season plan.
Dominating the league with Sam Kerr on the sidelines. Has to be Chelsea. Chelsea.
No Lauren James in this game. I mean, no starting left back. Now, we're getting to the injuries here in a second, but like, this is crazy, dude. She's amazing.
So let's talk about a couple other players, because again, I think Micah absolutely deserving of flowers there, but other players, I think, maybe having some stellar performances, best performances of the season too. I think one that I want to key in on, we mentioned her a couple times already, is Lucy Bronze. One that I think, from a signing perspective, at the start of the season, when we were kind of getting into it, not everybody's favorite idea of a signing coming into Chelsea, even though there was the direct recruitment from Sonia Bompastor to Lucy Bronze to make it happen for the club. And it definitely felt like, Ollie, this was, we heard this kind of thought that maybe she was going to play more midfield when she came in. She's basically been the right back of choice for this team. And, is also featured at center back. And so we've seen her really owning defensive responsibilities. But I just think her commitment on the day, the way she got involved up and down the pitch, really phenomenal in the way that she contributed to Guro's goal. Like, just an absolutely fantastic performance from her. I think, one, if you had questions or had doubts, if we see more of that over the remainder of the season, we will feel like we have been the beneficiary of a really, really underrated signing heading into this season.
Yeah, for sure. Like, this is the bar, right? This is the bar of the player that Lucy Bronze used to be and was a dominant force at right back for so many years, right? In more recent years, she's been more attack minded. She's frankly been at Barcelona where you don't really have to care about defending, and I think that has kind of leached into her national team performances. But just the intensity that she marshaled that right side with was perfect today. And, you know, it's an absolute choice for Gareth Taylor not to play Chloe Kelly today. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't really care. But the reality is, Mary Fowler is a very dangerous player. And she's been a really crucial cog in, you know, Man City's wheel when you think of who helps Bunny Shaw, who is that extra danger you have to worry about. You know, we had Fujino the other side, and I was kind of expecting Fujino to match up against Lucy Bronze because she stays really wide. She's kind of that out ball over the top. But they chose Mary Fowler, so I was a bit worried about that heading in. But yeah, she just got shut down. And we're talking about a player who's very, very good. She's you know, assimilated into the WSL very well. She can definitely handle herself. And Lucy Bronze dominated that right side. Like, Mary Fowler did not have a touch. Like, there were moments in the first half, especially, where Lucy was pressing into midfield and winning the ball off Mary Fowler. Like, she couldn't even turn on the ball. And that is exactly what I want to see from Lucy, using her physicality, using her nous, using that kind of burst of pace she still has in the first kind of 5 yards to make that key difference. Because those kind of moments where you switch over the ball and you can kind of dominate that side are completely crucial. And there was a moment in the first half where Lucy won the ball off Mary Fowler. She did so often throughout the game, played it through to Micah Ramirez, and Micah has a pot shot from 25 yards that is simple to save. But those turnover moments in coin flip matches like this, Nick, are exactly what I want to see from Lucy Bronze. And this is the standard I want to see from her going forward. I'm so pleased. Oh, and shout out for the assist as well, as we were saying earlier. Just a wonderful reverse pass.
Yeah, I was pretty worried about her starting today, to be honest. You know, I just thought, you know, obviously Lauren Hemp not being in the game is a massive relief to everybody because she is pretty dominant in what she does. And we've seen the wrong side of Lauren Hemp multiple times over the last few years. But yeah, I just thought it was a much smarter performance. And I think for someone like Sandy Baltimore, who I want to get to next, like, this player wants to be forward so badly. She's playing this left back, and I use left back in quotes because she finds herself in the attacking third very frequently, as she should. And against worse teams, it doesn't matter. Like, she's way more of an asset up there than she is playing a traditional left back. But this, to me, Dan, was a really important performance, I think, for Bompastor to see if she had the discipline to do this job. She didn't get forward in this game at all. She was properly a left back. And I think the thing that impressed me so much is that she decided that she was going to be incredibly physical and not deal with any sort of, like, you know, 50-50s that weren't going to have her involved. She decided that this was going to be a defensive performance, and I thought she was excellent. She was disciplined. She gave the ball away a couple times in the first half as things were kind of heating up a little bit, and I think that's stuff that you can clean up pretty quickly. But Dan, I was super pumped to see what I saw out of Sandy, because we needed both of them. We need both fullbacks to be incredibly on their game, and they were.
Yeah, I mean, Fujino had one of her most mediocre performances of the season against Baltimore, who on the day had some pretty impressive stats too. 1 clearance, 1 block shot, 6 interceptions, 3 total tackles, only 1 error that led to a shot. But I mean, did the good work winning her aerial duels as well. 2 out of 2 there. Key passes in the day, 1 accurate crosses, 1 out of 1. You know, generally I would say an assertive performance from her in the way that she made herself known in this match. You know, there's probably plenty of other players we would want to discuss as well, Ollie. I mean, I think that the center back pairing. Definitely made it difficult for Bunny Shaw to get the goodness out of this match that she is maybe accustomed to in other games. And I felt like they definitely did a job as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like we touched on it in the first half, Bunny was probably much more involved than she was in the second half, right? And that was, again, down to the fact that we weren't playing her game. Like we weren't allowing her to turn. We weren't allowing her to get that run on you, because that is, that's terminal. That's the goal. So the reality is that apart from, one of those key passes from Sunday in the first half through to Bunny Shaw, I think we shut her down so well. Like even on the set pieces where Myra lost her in the first half, like
set pieces the first half were tough. I was like, is no one gonna mark her? What's going on? This is nuts.
But we were doing enough. Like we were bumping her where we needed to, making sure really that the headers in the second half were kind of from way out of position. So unless she scores like an absolute worldy header, it's just not going to happen for her. So I think that part of it is really important. But just Millie feeling comfortable in her body again. This was a really dominant performance from her physically. Like the way she was sliding into challenges, the way she was going for those 50-50 holding off duels and winning them, crucially. And like Nat Bjorn, like the big news before the game will come on to, with Quiche being out and how big a cog she's been for us so far this season, and how she's looked like she's becoming a Chelsea player is really tough to take. But Nat stepping up in the way she did at the end of last season, we need a lot more of that going into this season. And it's heartening to see, Nick, that she is stepping up in that way.
I mean, she played on a yellow for like 50 plus minutes, against one of the world's best strikers. I mean, it takes discipline to do that as well, and to not make the critical error that can put your team at a huge disadvantage against a really good team. And I just love, they showed this clip of, I think Bompastor ran to her first after the game, if my memory serves. And you just saw this huge smile on her face that, like, due to the adverse circumstances that we'll cover next, like, this is yours now. You gotta really step up. And I think the interesting part was the fact that they were inverted a little bit. Usually when we've seen Bright and Bjorn play together, they're Bright on the right, Bjorn on the left, kind of maximizing their strong foot. But this was a different setup, and I think I liked it. It seemed a little bit more balanced to me. Obviously, Bjorn has some legs that Bright doesn't at this point in terms of just makeup speed and that sort of stuff. Pairing her and someone who's also on like the tail end of her career, like Lucy Bronze, makes sense. So there's always a recovery option there, and the same for Sandy and Millie on the other side. So I like that. I was a little confused by it at first, admittedly, but I got there at the end, and good performance for sure.
And I think the question now, maybe as a transition to things that have a ongoing impact out of this match, is the thing that you mentioned and hinted at just a moment ago with Khadijah Buchanan being out for the season, with the comments from Bompastor letting us know that she did in her ACL at the Liverpool game. And so she did kind of mention too that, like, she didn't want to talk about that before the game because it would have taken the focus away, I think, what was going to happen on the pitch. I think that smart move, good management. You get fined for that in the NFL, but rules don't apply like that in the WSL, my friends. And so this is very much a moment of like being absolutely gutted for her and what that means for kind of, her timeline, trajectory, recovery. Those are all things that we'll probably learn in the weeks and months ahead. Where we have to focus on now as supporters and fans is thinking about, like, well, what does that now mean for our central defense pairing for the remainder of the season? This team has more games in them than many in the competition. They will go deeper if not into the semifinal or final, and probably every competition that they're going up for trophies, not outside the realm of possibility for this team. I mean, I think, Ollie, there's definitely pairings and considerations that we could put forward. But I guess, how are you feeling on the back of the news of the injury, and then also thinking ahead to what this is going to mean for the central defense moving forward?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm just really gutted for her. Like,
Same.
she became a Chelsea player at the end of last season. Like, we've all seen over the years how sometimes players find it tough to make that transition to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And, away in Barcelona, at home in Barcelona, before she got absolutely robbed. Like, she was like completely perfect against one of the best attacks, if not the best attack in Europe, right? So you're talking about a player who is really coming into her own now. She started this season so well, physically dominant, just making sure that things weren't going wrong and actually allowing Millie to come up to speed, and also cleaning up for Lucy as she was like coming up to speed in terms of WSL as well. So the timing could not be worse for her, and that's what's most gutting. But yeah, as we say, like, injuries are opportunities, Dan, and it means that Nat Bjorn will now get that starting role back, the one she kind of lost towards the end of last season as Kadisha stepped up in the way she did, and she has to make that step up in the same way, both domestically and in Europe, where she struggled a bit more. So yeah, I think there are lots of considerations. Like, we still have Anik Nouwen on our books and players like that. So we have to consider kind of all factors here, especially if it's a long layoff for Quiche, because she is now a crucial cog in this squad, Nick. So I don't personally think I love Mpome, but I don't think she's ready for prime time right now. I think she will be maybe by the end of the season, maybe halfway through next. So it will be Nat to me starting, and then it's about what we want to do temporarily, short term, until Quiche comes back, right?
It's depth that you really worry about now. I mean, because one more injury and the whole season potentially is derailed. And what I loved about having Nat as a starter in the second 11 when we do make those sorts of big sweeping changes to the lineup is that you still have a starter level quality center back there. I think now you're looking at, I know Millie wants to play every game. She can't do that anymore. So you're gonna have to sit her down at some point and go, we need you to be great when we need you to be great, and you have to help bring other people up, like Mpom, like Lucy maybe slotting in as a center back in a B lineup. I think those are probably your best. I don't think Anik's likely to play a whole bunch for us, but like maybe, maybe that's her opportunity as well, is to really get back and show that she has it. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. You could also see a scenario where Niamh Charles slots in at center back as well and does a job there, because we need that, sort of left-sided player, and Sandy's been incredible so far. So maybe you just don't fix what's not broken. I think there is a lot of different scenarios. I'm very intrigued to see when we put out, the first Conti Cup lineup, what that center back pairing looks like, because honestly, your guess is as good as mine right now.
There'll definitely be a little bit of a whack-a-mole type of situation there as Bompastor puts together that lineup. But I mean, I think that does it for this match recap. I think player of the match, I would hasten to guess that maybe it's Micah for Nick Verlaney. I would go the same, though I do think you went split decision, Ollie, on who your choice was.
Yeah, I think Micah is definitely one of those. Arguably does take it, but just for a point of difference, I think Erin today really got back up to the Erin we know, the Erin we want to see, and just that kind of leader on the pitch, that general on the pitch, especially second half. Like, even when other players were losing the ball, and actually when she was losing the ball as well, just those recovery runs, those recovery challenges, making sure nothing was getting past, and players like twice her height sliding in on them. like players twice her speed sliding in on them. Like that was the Erin you want to see. And between her, Micah, and Shurka, like the first goal, yes, Micah was kind of lucky with the assist, but that to me epitomized the entire performance for us. It's City's attack. We break from it. It goes to Erin. Erin lays it off to Shurka. Shurka with her telescopic left leg flicks it on to Micah. And then Micah lays it on, right? And that midfield three, that's the dominant force that carried the game for us. And I think it was perfect the way that manifested, especially with, you know, Myra then doing Myra world-class things afterwards. So yeah, I'd say I'll give it to Erin, but Micah definitely gets at least several tips of the hat from me.
There we go. And then as we look ahead, I mean, again, as we mentioned earlier, top of the table, 7 matches played, plus 22 goal difference, very much 12 better than the next closest side in the league. Dumb things. 21 points in total. Man City in second place, 8 played, plus 10 goal difference, 19 points. Brighton in third place, with Frank Kirby being involved and being in charge at the moment. Just again, the best players in the WSL probably previously played for the Chelsea team. That just might be the way it goes. They currently have 8 played, plus 3 goal difference, 16 points. Arsenal in fourth. The love affair rekindled. The romance restarted. And then it's United, Liverpool, Tottenham, Villa, Everton, Leicester, West Ham, and Palace. I mean, the benefit, Nick, is the next round of matches. This Chelsea team does not have to travel outside of London until the middle of December. 2 Champions League matches at home, 2 league matches, one against the 3rd place team in the league, one is against the 5th place team in the league in Brighton and United. It feels like a really good time to be this Chelsea women's team. Feels like we're heading into a very important part of the season to continue to solidify the strong start that we've had.
You will have played every team in the top 6 early in the season. Remember, the WSL season started like a month and a half later than the Premier League did. So if you're watching this going, well, surely Chelsea should be we've had the hardest schedule so far. And by the time we get through Brighton and United's that makeup game that got canceled earlier because of the most predictable and utterly ridiculous scheduling concerns of all time. You will have played everyone who's good in the league, and that leaves only teams that aren't so good for a little bit. And so, like, I don't know, Ollie, I'm not typically like an optimist, but if you just look at the math here, the math screams, holy shit, this could be over by Feb 1. And then Chelsea can put their focus elsewhere. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the table down, like we need to emphasize we've played a game fewer and we've scored 25 goals. Like
and only given up 3.
And only given up 3.
You said again, 25 goals and
I think
3 allowed? Are you sure that's right?
Goals. Yeah. 13 different goal scorers, like 11 different assisters, set like different in terms of unique assisters.
Hannah Hampton's going to get in there at some point this season. It's going to happen.
I'm sure. Like, we've got 5 players on 2 assists right now, and that's like joint 3rd in the league. So, and one of them is Millie. So, like, we're in a very good place right now, a very kind of dominant, assertive place. And as Nick says, if we can just keep up that momentum to get over the hump of these next kind of 2 important games, really, with Brighton and United, you would hope the rest of it takes care of themselves. It's almost like we have a manager who is used to being very dominant in the league and knows how to deal with those situations. Like, it was absolutely not lost on her last night how important that game was. That was a statement game. It was the go-ahead game. It was, look, I know we're down a game. If we draw this, it's 2 drop points. So we're going ahead and we're asserting our dominance because 25 goals scored, 3 goals given up, and we have a game to play ahead of these guys. Like, it's mad. It's mad.
Against a United team that is not doing well. I mean, like, this is, I think, the key point. Like, if we would have played them when we were supposed to play them, they looked a little tougher, and now they don't look very good. I think Skinner's kind of out on his ass, frankly. But yeah, I mean, you look at this, and we have been in a catch-up position for so many years in a row where we had a slow start, and then we had to claw it back, and then we had to win every single game down the stretch to, and then win on goal difference, and then all these things. Imagine a Chelsea where the Champions League is really firing and the league is basically wrapped, and you have the liberty of exercising your players in a different format than maybe you're used to. Oh, and you're going to get Sam Kerr back, Neve Charles back, and the official back at some point.
And Lauren
James back, right? Like, fuck. What are you going to do? Like, that's a monster, dude.
Again, the league came down to no points in goal difference last season. It was won on 2 points the prior season. It was won on 1 point the season before that. It was won on 2 points the season before that. Right now, that is the margin. The margin that Chelsea have right now is the difference in winning this league. And so the platform is set, the stage is ready, and this team is absolutely on a tear at the moment. But there are still plenty of wonderful matches to come, particularly in the middle of this week during the men's international break when Chelsea take on Celtic at home to continue their aspirations to go undefeated, to go winning in 11. So let's see if they can get it done. That's going to do it for this episode. So thank you so much, Chelsea fans, for enjoying this recap with us. But until next time, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.